Hey guys, I appreciate you joining me for today's Bible study. Today we're going to take a look at one of the parables that Jesus used to teach his disciples. It's found in the book of Matthew. It is known as the parable of the sower, but is also sometimes known as the parable of the seeds or as the harvest story. Now, it is springtime. Before we get started, I wonder how many of you out there have ever taken the time to plant something. You take a seed, you plant it into the ground, whether it be a vegetable, maybe it's grass seed, a plant, whatever it is. If you have, then you know that you can't just take that seed and throw it into the ground and expect something to happen. It takes work, it takes time, but it takes certain things for it to sprout, to grow to its fullness, to mature. For a seed to grow, it needs to have, good soil, needs to have water, needs sunlight, but probably most importantly, it needs to be taken care of. It needs to have attention paid to it over the course of its growth. Without all these things, the seed simply won't grow. It doesn't mature. It doesn't become whatever it is that it's supposed to be. But this isn't some new agricultural idea. This is not something just discovered in recent history. No, this is an idea that's been around a while. It was around during the time of Jesus' life and his ministry, and the ideas of what it takes for a seed to grow were not unknown by the people of Jesus' time. Now, let's listen to these words from the book of Matthew. It is chapter 13. It is from verses 1 through 8. At about that time, Jesus left the house and sat on the beach. In no time at all, a crowd gathered along the shoreline, forcing him to get into a boat. Using the boat as a pulpit, he addressed his congregation telling stories. This is what Jesus said. He said, "What do you make of this? A farmer planted seed. As he scattered the seed, some of it fell on the road, and birds ate it. Some fell in the gravel. It sprouted quickly, but didn't put down roots. So when the sun came up, it withered just as quickly. Some fell in the weeds. As it came up, it was strangled by the weeds. Some fell on the earth and produced a harvest beyond his wildest dreams." Now, let's illustrate a little bit about what Jesus just said, what he just told his disciples. If I take this seed and I drop it into this cup and leave it and do nothing else, is it going to grow? No. This is like the seed that found its way onto the rocky path and was eaten up by a bird. If you do nothing with the seed, it's not going to grow. If I take this seed and I put it into the cup, but I do give it a little water, is it going to grow? No. Depending on the seed, it may sprout a little bit, but it's certainly not going to grow and fulfill its destiny as to whatever it was supposed to be. But what if I take a seed and put it in good soil, give it some water, but then I leave it? Is this seed going to grow? Maybe a little at first, but if you don't take care of it and pay attention of it and watch it all the way through, it can get crowded out. It can get tangled up in the weeds like Jesus talked about with his parable. But if I take that seed and I put it in good soil and I give it water and I make sure it has sunlight and I care for it day after day, nurturing it, making sure it has what it needs, when it needs, keeping out all the other things that can prevent it from growing, that seed is most certainly going to grow. So the question is, why did Jesus use these seeds as examples? What exactly is Jesus trying to tell us? Well, think of this seed as your faith. Think of your body as the soil. And think of water and sunlight and the care to be what you and I can do to help grow our faith, to mature in our faith, to nurture it, to make it as big and as beautiful as it could possibly be. In order for this seed to grow, or in other words, in order for your faith to grow, it has to be cared for in much the same way as any vegetable seed might. Now, hear these words later in Matthew dealing with the same issue of the seeds. This is still chapter 13, but now we're reading verses 18 through 23. These are the words of Jesus. "Study this story of the farmer planting seed." This is the story that he just told. "When anyone hears news of the kingdom and doesn't take it in, it just remains on the surface. And so the evil one comes along and plucks it right out of that person's heart. This is the seed the farmer scatters on the road. This would be our seed here in the cup by itself. The seed cast in the gravel. This is the person who hears and instantly responds with enthusiasm, but there is no soil of character. And so when the emotions wear off and some difficulty arrives, there is nothing to show for it. That's the seed here just in water. There's no good soil keeping it or nurturing it for it to grow. The seed cast in the weeds is the person who hears the kingdom news, but weeds of worry and illusions about getting more and wanting everything under the sun strangle what was heard, and nothing comes of it. This is the seed here that is in good soil and has been watered, but neglected and ignored withers away. The seed cast on good earth is the person who hears and takes in the news, and then produces a harvest beyond his wildest dreams. That's this seed. That's in good soil, it has water, sunlight, nurtured, taken care of. It grows and enables us to live lives that are closer to what Jesus wishes. So you see, what Jesus is telling us is that just as the planter has to provide constant care and endless effort to grow a particular thing, vegetable, plant, flower, whatever, so must we provide constant care and endless effort to grow our faith. This, our faith, is a wonderful gift given to us by God, and we must be sure to take care of it and provide good soil for it to grow into something meaningful. Good soil is Bible study. Good soil is going to church, loving your neighbor, helping those less fortunate. It's devoting your life to God and loving Him with all your heart, all your strength, and with everything you have. Amen.